Should you sell your apartment in New York City now? What's going on with the market? How long will it take to sell? How do you know if it's priced right? There are so many questions that face a seller in the complicated New York City market. In this video, I'm going to break down 3 things that I think you should consider as a seller in New York City to effectively sell your apartment. Are you ready? Let's get started. I'm Dewey Moss. I'm your New York City real estate resource. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and leave a comment if you find this video helpful. And let's get started. There are so many things to consider for a seller in the New York City real estate market because it's a very complicated market. But there are some guidelines that help us create a strategy to successfully sell your apartment. And there are 3 things that I like for sellers to consider. First, when is the optimal time to list your apartment in New York City? Now, the reality is that if you need to sell your apartment for whatever reason, you're moving, relocating for work, there's an emergency, you're having a big life change, you need to sell your apartment. So you would need to list it whenever you need to list it. But if we're talking about a seller that wants to take advantage of the norms of the market, then let's take a look at this terrific chart from our friends over at Urban Digs. This is an aggregate chart that shows many years of data, and you will clearly see here that the optimal time to list is in March. Look at what happens there. We really come off the winter, we get into March, it's the optimal time to list, and there's a lot of activity there as we sort of go down through the summer, and then we have another spike up around September. Those tend to be our 2 big selling seasons in New York City, the spring and the fall. But the spring, by far, is the best time to list your apartment. But you want to be very careful about when you list and how long it may take your apartment to sell. So if you had the luxury of listing during the optimal time, why would you list in January when it's slow and then maybe take 2 or 3 months to sell, and then your listing will be stale by the time there's lots of activity and competition in the market? The next thing to consider is how to effectively price your apartment against the market. Now, I know that sounds very logical, but you'd be surprised at how many sellers really want to price their apartment above the market price because maybe they feel like their apartment is worth more and what have you. Understanding how to price your apartment is pivotal in the New York City market, and it affects how long it will take for the apartment to sell. Remember that New York City is a vertical market, and that means that we price according to what's going on in your building. Your building is the neighborhood. There may be 60 apartments in that building. That's like 60 separate houses. So we price against what's happening in the building. If, for example, a 1-bedroom in your building has sold, several 1-bedrooms in your building have sold for $1 million, probably pricing yours at $1.7 million is not the right option. Your offers are going to come in closer to $1 million because that's what the comps say. You're also going to have a problem with the appraisal process. You have to look at what's going on in the building before you listen to your friends and neighbors saying, well, I heard in this neighborhood that things are going for $2 million. You must price according to what your building can withstand. And if you do that, you'll be much more successful in selling your apartment in a reasonable amount of time. The final thing to consider is the correlation between days on market, how long your unit will be on the market, versus pricing the unit effectively. Let's take a look at a very good chart, again from our friends over at Urban Digs. What this chart does is it breaks down the correlation between how much of a discount, how much you have to cut your price according to how long it's been on the market. So for example, this shows last year's data, Q1 through Q4. And if you look at around 90 days, on the whole, people are having to cut their price by 5%, maybe a little higher, and then if something stays on the market for longer than 120 days, you're having to cut an average of 10 to 11, maybe even 12% on the offering price. Now, If you had started, I'm not saying start at that low, 12%, but if you had started at a more reasonable price, your apartment may not have stayed on the market that long. That would have caused you to have to do these extreme price cuts. There are many things that affect days on market. If you list it at a time when it's naturally a slower market, then obviously you're going to collect some days there. But on the whole, most units stay on the market because they are not priced strategically. If you price it at a good price, you may not only be within that first 30-day window, you might get 2 or 3 offers on your apartment and increase the price beyond what you thought could happen. Yes, of course it depends on what's going on in the market at any given time, but more importantly, how strategic are you at pricing your unit against the market, against your building, to avoid that lengthy days on market and having to do those price cuts in the first place. Be smart about how you price your unit, and you will strategically and effectively sell your apartment in New York City. Once again, I'm Dewey Moss. I'm your New York City real estate resource. Please take a look at the description box for all sorts of different ways to get in touch with me. I would love to help you with your sell or purchase of your New York City apartment. Take a moment to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, leave a comment if this video was helpful, and I'll see you next time.